Hey guys, I have a video that I'm going to call the blueprint of what we have built, and sort of everything that we do here will fall into a piece on this blueprint. Let's start with the very end goal. Say you wanted to build the best auto repair company in America. We're going to put that in red here. So the goal is to build a number one auto repair brand, and the one that makes the most money, etc., right? Money, growth, etc. You would want to build a company that essentially does one thing very well, which is it has to have the number one customer experience. And in order to do that, and by the way, what does that look like? I mean, number one customer experience is essentially, you have speed of service, customer sees urgency from the moment they come into your store. When they get their car fixed, it's first time is equal to fixed. You don't have to return over and over again. And finally, the biggest is you always communicate offensively, meaning they don't call you, you call them. Okay. So offensive communication, that would be if you do those three things, you're going to have an incredible company. So in order to do that, you'd have to have some really good systems. Fair. And systems are no good if you don't execute on them. And execution can't happen unless you have a really good culture in your company. And culture doesn't happen unless you have really good leadership. Fair? So that's, how you are able to build a shop and make a lot of growth. Now, that's the visible part of it. I'll just call that the visible part. There's an invisible part to this which people don't see. And, we could sit here and actually describe what leadership really is, and we'll kind of bring a boundary here, right? We're going to build a boundary between the visible and the invisible. So on this side, what you don't see is you have leadership being made of two things. Leadership's made, in my humble opinion, of good judgment. How do you spell judgment? And skill. Naturally, you have to know what the heck you're doing, and you have to make good judgment. Skill comes from knowledge. When you learn stuff, you get skilled. You know how to do it. You probably won't do it well. And in my opinion, good judgment comes from wisdom. Now, knowledge and wisdom, in my humble opinion, come from environment. We'll get to that in a second. How? Environment, I mean, this is simple, right? You get in an environment around guys that are very skilled and you will learn. But how does wisdom come from environment? Well, we can break that down a little bit. Wisdom comes from identity. And identity is very important because wisdom, you could say, comes from experience, right? But experience doesn't make everybody wise. Experience only makes people wise who have a positive identity. And what I mean by a positive identity is that you believe that you are a force for something good. You believe that your life is important. And when you have a positive identity and you have experience, you usually get wisdom. When you have a negative identity and you get wisdom, you get experience, you actually have lack of wisdom. This is a very key part of wisdom. And positive identity, in my opinion, comes from a decision. It's deciding the question is, who am I? What am I? And that, my friends, in my opinion, the question that you must answer is this: I am blank. Those are the two most powerful words in the English dictionary or the English language. I am blank. And we always talk about, when you get in our company, one of the first things we do to you is we hold up a mirror to you, and your whole life you might have believed you are this, actually, this is probably a better, your whole life you believed you're this little person, right? And what happens when you come on the team is you've got all these really, well-meaning, smart folks, and they tell you, hey, man, like, look at that. That's not you. You're not this little guy. You are this giant. You are this gigantic human being, and this is who you are. We kind of just hold up a mirror to you saying, this is who you are. And you get to believe it or not. You get to say yes or no. And if you say yes, what happens is your identity changes, it becomes positive. And then when you have experiences, you become wise. And that leads to good judgment, and that leads to leadership. Now, that is exactly what I meant when I said environment leads to a positive identity. If you're around people that pour into you, and again, this is really here, right? We talk about this, and we kind of really don't undermine the fact that a lot of the guys in our company grow when they get around good people. Okay, so this is really a big part of it. When you get around a good environment, and this is what we're building, by the way, right? This is what we want to build. We want to build a great environment where people have a transformation. This is a transformation, right? This is when you become something else. This right here, when you say yes, that is a transformation. You become something else, right? This transformation leads you to becoming a different identity. You make a different decision, which leads to a positive identity, and which eventually leads you to make good judgment and you become a leader. Knowledge, this is again, this is simple, right? We talk about knowledge, you get around skilled people, you do reps, you study, right? That's what knowledge is. Good judgment and wisdom, this is this part right here is really just the case where you have interpretation. I had a young guy come up to me after we did one of these presentations and he said, Zane, I don't understand how an identity can lead to wisdom. And I said, well, all experience is more or less, subject to interpretation. And how you see yourself, you're going to interpret that experience accordingly. And you're either going to interpret it positively or negatively. And if you have a positive identity, you will most likely interpret it, and which will lead you to a good place. At least a good judgment. And here, guys, skill here in our company is sales. It is, production. It is diagnosis. It's fixing hard stuff, fixing cars, diag, right? Workflow. Maybe even, you're a good one-to-many guy, right? You're a good teacher. All of these are skills you can learn, right? They all come from study and reps, right? And being around skilled people. If you're around skilled people, you're going to get skilled much faster. And when you have a good judgment, which means you make efficient choices and you do them fast. That's another thing. Money loves speed, so you can make good choices fast. That's a deadly trait in the marketplace, guys. And that only comes from wisdom. Wisdom is what? It's the difference, right? It is as the Bible says, it's knowing the difference between right and wrong, the things you can control, the things you can't. This is another word for this is called discernment. And I'm today not having the greatest spelling day, but I'm just gonna, discernment. You can look it up. Discernment. It's the difference between right and wrong, right? You'll be able to have discernment. And then that leads into all of this leads to leadership. So, what is leadership? Leadership for me has always been very simple. It is the standard that is set by a person that people follow. That's it. That's the simplest definition. And if you want to take it a step further, the standard should what? Make good people that are already good at what they do, better. That is the best definition or the outcome of leadership. How do you know someone's a good leader? They make good people better. But how do they do it? They set a standard that people follow. If people now, even if you have a standard that people don't follow, well, you're a great guy, but you're not a leader because nobody's following you. Okay, what is culture? Culture is simple. How do you know when you have good culture? The team becomes a hero because this leader will tell people that, hey, I'm not the one. You guys are the one. We are the one. Well, how do you know when you're executing? You guys know this is one of our tenants. A team that execute knows that the customer is the boss. The customer becomes the boss. All of a sudden, people are taking care of the customer. Systems. You guys know this as well. Number one, yes, we say yes. Number two, speed. Money loves speed. Three, sales fixes everything, right? And by the way, these are also tied with sales fixes everything. You do ISOs, speed of service, right? Number four, you do good write-ups. And number five, QC. Okay, these are the systems that we follow. ISOs are canned jobs, by the way, if you know. And then if you do those things, well, guess what? You have the number one speed and urgency in the country. You get everything done right the first time, and you have offensive communication because you know what? Another thing I forgot on here is circle of sales, right? Speed and speed. If you remember, half of the circle of sales is speed, and which gets into the offensive communication part. And if you do all of this, right, what leads to it? It leads to this, which is what we started with. You build a brand that is continually growing and you're retaining. That's the key, right? I could put that here. Retaining two things. Number one, team. Your team doesn't want to leave because you build an incredible brand that people keep growing in, and customers. And the customer is really number one, because they're the ones who pay for everything. And if you take care of your customer, you will never, ever, 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 ever go out of business. You always have to remain loyal to the customer first. Customers, number one, team, number two. Without a customer, we're just a bunch of dudes hanging out. And people that are developed and have good leadership, they understand that leadership leads to serving our customer and giving them a world-class experience. And gentlemen and ladies, we all started with this, which is how would you build the best company in the world? You'd have the best customer experience. Let 2026 be the year that you build the best customer experience. But now that you know all of this, everything we'll probably train on moving forward will be one of these items on there, whether it be any of these nodes that we talked about, right? Any of this stuff here, 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 here. And we're going to get into really defining parts, what each one of these things means. How do you make sure and how do you know when things not going well? You're missing one of them, right? So I hope that helps. And I hope this is the blueprint that we will follow. Like I said at the very beginning, let's call this the blueprint of what we're doing here. Thank you very much. I wish you the best.